So anyways, yeah, great song, and it does kick off this idea, no longer fear, or no longer slave to a fear, because I think at this age, one of the big fears that you live with is, will I ever make it? Will I ever have that perfect career? Will I ever have that ideal family, or whatever that, you just have visions of what will be right now, and it's hard to actually be here right now. And so we're going to kind of unpack that a bit. But I just want to ask a question before we get started. Many of you students, how many of you are already overwhelmed with school? Not too bad, actually. That's like, what, 40%? That's pretty good. But all the rest of you are in for it in another couple weeks. So, this message is for all of you. And really what we want to get at is just that the heart of this is to be effective, to reach that future we want, we have to be here now. And we have to not only be here now, we have to live healthy now. I was just in Colorado last week as part of this cool thing that I've been doing for a couple years, focused on living healthy rhythms with God. It's called Rhythm in 20. And there's so many amazing epiphany moments. There's so many fun times, including when a bear got in our cabin and got into our fridge and hot chocolate, drank all our milk. But we had lots of cool things happen there. But one of the big epiphanies that came from that is they were just talking about this idea of finishing. And it's a bunch of 30-year-olds. I'm like, finishing what? I'm 30. I haven't even started yet, you know? But one of the big takeaways I got is that in order to finish well, you have to enjoy God today. And that's the heart of this. This is what exactly I'm talking about. But how easy is it to get stuck in the rut of thinking about the future or not enjoying God because you're buried in your books, or you're buried in your classes, or your schedule, or your commitments, whatever it is. And so we've been talking about this series, Creatures of Habit. And for some of you who've seen the slide, I think it was up right before it. But I don't know if this is corny or not, so forgive me if it is. But I was just thinking through, like, what is this creature of the habit that I'm going to talk about? This habit of work and rest. And I'm just thinking, squirrel. Not like squirrel, but squirrel. And, you know, I'm a hunter, and I spend a lot of time sitting in a tree not watching any actual animals that I want to shoot, but I see a lot of squirrels. And one thing is, you become a quick study of nature when you sit in a tree for a lot of hours. And one thing you see about squirrels, especially the gray squirrel, they don't hibernate or anything like that, is they're always looking for, you know, some kind of nut or something to get them through the winter, to help them get fatted up so they can survive the winter. But they're also stupid, playful devils. And I can't tell you how many times I've been in a tree and you hear just all of a sudden something light up in your woods, and you're like, there it is, there's the big boy, he's coming. And it's two gray squirrels just acting like total jerks, chasing each other, playing, getting my adrenaline going. But you see in them this rhythm. They live with this God-ordained, God-created rhythm where they actually have play, they have rest, they sleep like 15 hours a day apparently. But they also store, when they work, they store enough acorns and nuts and that sort of thing to last them through a whole winter. They unbury them or whatever they do. And so I was just thinking about that. God created, in His order, all of us to have these natural rhythms, these natural habits in our life. But somewhere in the midst of it, sin and all that kind of messed up creation. And so in the same way, He created us to live these healthy habits. And this one is one we mess up all the time. We mess up all the time. We get this balance of rest and work really messed up. And you see it happen right from the get-go in Genesis 2. And I'm gonna kind of paraphrase it a little bit for you. But some of you guys know the creation story in Genesis 1 and 2. And you see the story unfold where God's creating, literally creating everything. God was there, He was just chilling. We don't really know what God was doing before creation happened because He has always been. It's not like He began somewhere, He's always been. And at some point, He decided, I'm going to create everything. And He started. And so we go through and we see this happen. And on the sixth day, He creates man and woman. And in that, we just see Him start going. He gives them some tasks. And one of the tasks is that He actually gives Adam the task to work the field. To actually, cultivate everything that's going. Interesting thing about the Garden of Eden, if you didn't know, it's like a year-round growing season in the Garden of Eden. So he didn't get a break. He was supposed to be always, but it wasn't meant to be torture. It was meant to be good. It was meant to be a steward of what he had. And then he wasn't cutting it, apparently, so he created Eve. That's what God does, right? When guys can't do it, he created woman. And so Eve comes along, and that was the role, is to work, to enjoy creation, to bear the fruit. But then, many of you probably know the story. Adam and Eve sinned. The one tree, the one fruit that they shouldn't take, that he warned them against, they took. They fell into this sin. This curse came upon the earth. And this is one of the things that happened, is that for human beings, work became toil. It was no longer joy-filled. It was no longer easy. We don't even know the implications of what this really means. But this is where we can get, I think, caught in the same curse in our own time. Is we get so fixated on work, on achieving, on career, on becoming this person or that person, that we commit and toil and work our tails off, and we forget about why we're here in the first place. We were here to stroll in the garden with God. That's why he created, to be in relationship. We forget that. And so in the midst of that, we're working towards the future. And once in a while, if you're a Christ follower, if you follow God, you say, hey God, work. Hey God, and then you just keep going. And this is not the natural order. This is not how God created us to live. One of the things that is significant about this creation story is you see God, like I said, he was chilling, I guess. I would love to know what he was doing. I really would. But he was obviously rested, and I don't know if God gets tired, but apparently, he rested. So he was just chilling. He created for 6 days, and he rests. I don't think he was resting because he needed rest. It would make a pretty weak God if he needed to rest. I mean, it was a big creation, but still, it's God. And so he goes and he rests. Why did he do that, do you think? He created man and woman on the 6th day. And then he rested. And you get this picture, not only is he setting a precedent for how we should live and what priority rest should be, but he also created man and woman, said, here you go, here's your jobs, this is what you're going to do. You're going to be fruitful and multiply. You're going to sow the earth. You're going to do all these things. Now we're going to rest. Literally, that's how it came out. Like, you just got... I can imagine, because it was a real comfortable, candid relationship with God and Adam at first. The sin and... Like, really? We were literally just created. Like, we're good. We're good. We'll go work. God says, no. He rested. Creation rested, and that's what happened. And so we see this precedent right in the beginning of time where God said, you must work from rest, not to rest. And I think we get that mixed up. I think we see God created for 6 days, and then he rested. As we get this picture, we work our tails off and just go veg out on the couch and watch Netflix. Like this amazing picture of God on his couch watching Netflix after 6 hard days. But it wasn't that. He was rested to begin with. He worked and he rested again to set this precedent. He started the 6th day and said, you're good to go, but I want you to work from rest, so enjoy day 7, because day 1, and roll the calendar again, day 1, you're going to work hard. But this is the picture we get, and I think we overlook that all the time. There's this picture I want to pop up here. If you can picture it like this, this is how our rest and work rhythm should go, our habits should go. It should be a free swinging pendulum. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But unfortunately, we usually pin it to that corner. And then we might come back for like a Cedar Point thrill ride back down to rest, only to fly back. But that's sometimes, and probably most often, what it looks like for us. And there's a lot of different things. This is busying yourself with classes, busying yourself with clubs, busying yourself with whatever. And you're forgetting to take the time to spend just the minutes, the days, the moments with God in the cool of the garden and hang out with Him. God created us for relationship. God created us for dominion. To take care of the earth, but also to be in relationship with each other, to be in relationship most of all with Him. And this is part of our mandate, and we have to start living like this. So, as we're thinking about the beginning of the school year, a lot of you are already developing good and bad habits. And I joked about a few, but Netflix and social media might be just part of those habits. And they aren't evil things, and I enjoy them actually. But when we use that for rest, this is not real rest. This is not real rest at all. And we get a picture of why, and we're going to read two accounts of it, but in the Gospels you see this story about Mary and Martha. And some of you may not know who they are, but Jesus, during his ministry on earth, had actually, you might have heard the story, Lazarus rose the guy from the dead. This was their sisters, his sisters. And so they were quite fond of Jesus. They saved their brother. Why wouldn't you be? And so Jesus is actually in town, and all of a sudden Martha sees him and says, "Come on in." And so pop up Luke up there. It says, "Now as they went on their way, Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving. And she went up to him and said, 'Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me.' But the Lord answered her, 'Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken away from her.'" We see another account of it in John. You can pop that up real quick. It says, 6 days before the Passover, Jesus therefore came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. So they gave a dinner for him there. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those reclining with him at the table. Mary therefore took a pound of expensive ointment made from pure nard, and anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. You see another act here of Mary just being in the presence of Jesus. And we see back from the flip back that back account in Luke. But you get this picture of this is what life is all about. We know that there's this creation mandate to work and to rest. But we get a clear picture about what Jesus values more right here. And it's not to flake off of your obligations. You should be a steward. You should work. This is part of our call. But he says that one thing Mary has, go to the last part. Mary has chosen the good portion with her, which will not be taken away from her. This idea that she chose right. Martha was not a bad person, and I'm sure he appreciated her service on some level, but he was trying to make a point in saying, Mary is here at my feet, spending time with me, listening to my words. This is what will never get taken away. This is what will last forever. This is part that we have to remember, especially as you're going into the year. What will your year be characterized? Just busyness? Martha, busyness, moving all the time, walking into the living room, Jesus, you need a drink, walking out, Jesus, you need a snack. Or Mary's just there, listening, attentive, just being in relationship with him. This is our first thing we should be doing. The first thing when God created us was just to be with him. Work came later. We have to work from rest. And so I don't know what that looks like for each one of you, but I know it's the right time of the year to start making those decisions. Because it's not only the right time of the year, because honestly, if you keep going and don't set the right patterns, the right rhythms right now, it will be what it is. You'll just get absorbed into some, pattern that you really may not even chose it. Quite honestly, it chose you. Or you could be really proactive and say, you know what? We talked about priorities last week. I'm going to make my priorities my priority, actually. And I'm going to make sure time and presence, rest with God is the most important. And I'm going to work from there. This is how God has called us to live. This could come up in a lot of ways, and I don't know about you guys, but if you think about, what does your summers look like usually? Do you work your butts all the way through right up to the day you get here? Probably not the best thing to do. Not saying don't work. Maybe you should take a couple days off before school starts. Maybe you should spend time with God, relax, get centered. What does your week look like on average? Do you run 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. every day and don't hardly take a break? Or when you take a break, is it just brain dead activities. It's not real rest at all. It's just living in a vegetative state. Do you actually go to God? Do you actually recharge with God? Do you find rest in Him? This is the kind of stuff that I want to challenge you with as you're thinking about it, because if you don't, you will burn out. And it may not be now, it may not even be during college, but I promise you, life does not get less busy. I just got a message from Heidi, wherever she is. I'm going to put her on the spot. And I'd always joke about this, like, oh, you know, you got a lot of time now. You don't know, not just to her, to everybody. And she just sent me a message the other day, like, you know how you said life just picks up pace when you get done with college? You know, you're right. And this is a reality. You know, Heidi's married now, but she doesn't even have kids yet. I promise you it doesn't slow down with kids. This is life. And so if you don't set these patterns, if you don't set these habits now, this will be what it is for you. And so this is why I'm so adamant about not only the beginning of the year, but this phase of your life. To set these rhythms of rest and work in the right place, so when you do have your job, when you do have family, whatever those things are, you're good to go. And not only you're good to go, but you're leading your family in healthy habits as well. This, like I said, this has nothing to do with your time. This is a hard issue. Right now, it seems like the busiest time in your life. It's not, but it seems like it. I think it's the busiest time in my life, but it's probably not. My kids aren't even in sports yet. Talk to the leaders; they'll tell you about that. It's only going to get busier. The difference is we can't wait for it to not get busy. It's a hard issue. We have to deal with it. We have to say, what is it most important in our lives? And we have to live that way. We can't just say, well, in 5 years, well, in 7 years, well, in 8 years, well, once this class is over, well, once I get that job, once whatever. You keep going. Nothing's going to change, I promise you that. This group that I've been involved in, this Rhythm in 20, I mean, we've got guys like from every kind of place. I've got one of these guys who's on the NFL Countdown, like Fox team, and travels around and hangs out with football players all the time. His life is not normal. He's on the road all the time. I've got another one who works for the State Department. I'm pretty sure he's in the CIA. He was actually under the Secretary of Defense during the Iraq Wars. This is one of these guys in this group. Their life is not, they all said the same thing. My life, you know, in a few years, and they're all in the same place I was, because they realized, oh crap, if I don't get this figured out now, I don't know what's going to happen to me. I'm going to burn out, I'm going to fry out, I'm going to be worthless to everybody in my life. And this is not like a doom speech to you guys. This is just to help warn you, to set you up for success now. Because I didn't have people telling me this when I was in college. In fact, it was just the opposite. What you do have is professors, not all of them, but most of them, saying you got to look ahead, you got to focus on your career, that's all that matters. But it doesn't. It's not all that matters. It's important, but it's not all that matters. Gosh, I could say a lot, and I'm not going to. I'm going to wrap this up. All right. Yeah, what do I want from you guys? What do I want to see is I want you guys to be realistic about your time. I believe you when you say you're busy, I do. So what is it that's making you busy? What are the things that are priorities to you that can't go? What are the things that are less important? This is one of the epiphanies I had recently is there's not many things that I do that I would say that's a waste of time. Most things are not a waste of time I do in my life. But the epiphany I had is there's lots of good things to do, but I need to do the right things. And this is probably the same situation you guys are in. There's lots of good things to do, but you need to do the right things. So what are those right things? What are those priorities? And another thing I want you guys to start thinking about is what does rest really look like to you? Because I promise you, I love movies. I love Netflix. It's coming up a lot. This is a deep, dark secret. Not really. This is something, but I enjoy it. So I'm not knocking sitting around watching TV, but I am saying if all of your free time is spent in front of that TV just making you dumber, it's probably not the best use of your time. There's probably better ways you can spend that. So think about what is some way that I experience rest? What is some way that I experience connection with God? What is some way that, or some place, if you can think about sometimes, what are some times when literally all you have on your mind is that moment? Can you think about times like that? That's your place of rest. That's your place of restoration, of recreation. This is what God wants for us. And we have to know what those things are in order to build it into our life, in order to make it a habit. So for me, as I was thinking about all these different things that I like to do, I started looking at what is some common themes in all of these. And one of them was nature. When I'm outside, when I'm in the woods usually, but not exclusively. I was in the mountains this last week, that was pretty amazing. When I'm in nature, I just feel at ease. I feel at peace. I feel a connection with God. This is something that's, for me, I'm not saying it's everybody, but that's something now I can go to. And when I'm starting to feel like just strung out, and when I start thinking I have no time to go out hunting or go out for a hike, that's exactly when I should go. Because as soon as you get in that rut, you're already past the point. So you have to know what are those things. What are those things in your life that just bring you rest? Recently, and it's outside, disc golf. Love it. I'm terrible at it, but I love it. One of the things that I've realized for me is some kind of motor skill that doesn't take a lot of thinking. You know, like golf, disc golf, I don't think in those. Probably you should think, but I don't think. But just being able to do something and just be in that moment, be present. I went golfing a couple days ago on the mountains. There's just monstrous elk sitting in front of me on the golf course. They're big ones. And I loved it. I wasn't thinking about golf. I'm just like, man, this moment is amazing. So when are those times when you're just like, you're just, the only place you are is there and your mind isn't anywhere else? Write those down, figure out some of the common themes in that. And related to that, you have to know when to shut off. There's always something else to do. Always. Know when to shut it off. Know when to just say, I'm done. Turn it off. The work will get done when the work gets done. I'm going to take these 2 hours and just go be with the Lord. Whatever that means to you. This doesn't mean just praying, oh, that's a great thing to do, if that's the way you connect. This could be a lot of different things. And then figuring out what are those normal rhythms throughout your week and day. When do you find rest in your schedule in the week? When do you find it in the day? Do you, like I said, go from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. every day? What does that time in between look like? There's actually studies out there that show, it's not just all the goodwill by big companies. There's actually a reason for this, that you're given 2-hour breaks. And the unions fought for this, but they also fought for it with proof. And said that they found that if you give your employees rest every couple of hours, they're more productive. You should rest every few hours. You should find ways to take a break, to rest, even if it's 5-10 minutes. And then finally, just to kind of build a schedule. Be proactive. You can say, oh, I need to do this, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this, but it doesn't matter if you don't do anything. It doesn't change anything if you don't actually do anything about it. So, for you guys to actually look realistically at your schedule and start building in those things that you need to build in, take out the things that are less important. So that's kind of what I want you guys to run with. This is a very passionate issue for me. And I just want to see you guys live healthy. I want to see you guys succeed in college. But most of all, I want to see you succeed in life. I want you guys to walk away in 20 years, 30 years, whatever it is, when your kids are going off to college, and be able to say, you know what? I did all right. And have no regrets. That's what I want for you guys. I know it seems like a long ways, but it starts with today. Let's pray. God, thank you so much for everybody here. I thank you for their desire to just put you at the center of their priorities. The fact that they're here tonight shows where their heart is, God, and I thank you for that. I thank you for their faithfulness, their desire. I thank you for them for responding to your Spirit's leading. And God, I just pray that you continue to guide them down this path. I pray that you continue to help give them the wisdom to figure out what does this practically look like, but also the strength and the courage to live it out, to say no to certain things and be able to push through and say yes to the right things. Because sometimes the right things aren't the easy things. Sometimes the right things are a uphill battle, but they're the right thing, so we should do them. And so God, I just pray that you give them the strength and courage to do that. I pray that their small groups would be just a time where they can start building great friendships, but also that they can really be focused on you and really be focused on how to make their life more about you and more about your kingdom, God. So again, we just thank you. We praise you for all that you've done already here and will do tonight, God. And I just pray that you bless everyone's week. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, so I don't know, do we have any